Hello. Welcome to Fisher Fitness Coaching Podcast, episode 3. This episode is going to be on fat loss, only fat loss. So the last one was habits. No, it wasn't. It was on basics, basically the foundations of muscle growth and fat loss. But now I'm going to talk about specifically fat loss and how to lose body fat. But I want to go into the detail of actually how to lose body fat. Not the generic sort of stuff you hear. I'm going to go into the nitty gritty of it all. So hopefully you will learn exactly how you need to lose body fat if you want to. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the last podcast. I'm going to try and keep this to about 20 minutes. I'm not sure this day and age, people's attention spans are very short, aren't they? I think it's even proven. They're getting shorter and shorter. So I'm going to try and keep it to around 20-25 minutes, and each episode I hope will be around that time frame. So if you're listening in the car, if you're listening in bed, on a walk, on the toilet like one of my mates was, Ben, then yeah, this will be perfect amount of time hopefully. And I'm not sure if this sounds any better. Basically I'm trying different rooms. I'm in the office today. On the second one I was in the lounge, so it sounds quite echoey in here. So I reckon I've got to head down to the lounge again for the fourth one. But I have bought a muff. I bought a muff for my microphone, so hopefully that would have improved the sound somewhat. It's a black muff. I've got different coloured muffs: orange, yellow, green, red, you name it. I might use a different muff for each episode, just to change up a little bit. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about fat loss today. So I've decided I'm going to try and make these episodes almost like a journey. So you can sort of come on this journey with me on, increasing your knowledge, expanding your knowledge on fat loss, muscle growth, strength. I'm going to start with the basics first. So obviously I started off with literally the basics. And now I'm going to go on to the whole how to lose fat, and then the next one will be how to gain muscle and strength, and then I'm going to go into the more nutrition side of things, and then more into the training side of things. And so it's almost like a journey. So things like I guess I'll go more sort of complicated as I go on. But obviously I don't know everything. So what I'm telling you is what I know, and I know a fair bit, but I don't know as much as a lot of other people out there. So that if there's something that I say which is slightly incorrect, or I don't know, if there's some research come out to prove me wrong, then just let me know, because I'm always keen to learn. So I'm not saying that I'm the most knowledgeable coach out there. I'm just telling you what I know and hoping that's going to increase your knowledge, I suppose. And I've had some good feedback again about the last one. Yes, it is a bit weird just me talking to a computer screen and a microphone, but I guess it will get easier. So I'm going to do a Q&A as well another time. Sorry, I'm waffling again. I'm going to do a Q&A. So if you've got any questions on anything about training, nutrition, fat loss, muscle growth, anything like that, just send them in to me on Instagram, fisher.fitness.coaching, or you can get me on Facebook as well. Talking about Facebook, I posted a reel about 4 days ago, and it's gone absolutely mental, which is cool because it's getting more reach. But it's the reel where I gave out 7 fat loss tips or weight loss tips, and it's gone viral. And at the end of the video, I said, if you want a copy of my ultimate training program, let me know and I'll send it over to you, because I was expecting just to be sending out to my friends, like on my Facebook page. So I wasn't even expecting a single response. Maybe one from someone I know messaged me on Messenger, but it's had 100,000 views and about 400 comments, and I'm getting it's consistent. I can't keep up with it. So, and these are people from the US, Australia, all around the world. It's gone absolutely mental. What I've had to have done is basically give everyone the link to the Google Drive for them to copy their own or to create their own copy of the program. It's the only way. If not, I was having to message back and say, what's your email address? Getting the email address, sending it over copy to them, creating a folder in Google Drive for them individually. It was taking an absolute age. So that was fun, and it's still going strong. I'm getting notifications all the time, constantly. Anyway, enough about my boring business. So fat loss and weight loss, very different things. Weight loss is when your body loses weight. Now, weight can come from body fat, it can come from muscle glycogen, it can come from water, and it can come from muscle. So when someone says, I want to lose weight, or if you're someone who says, I want to lose weight, then you need to think to yourself, well, is it weight you actually want to use, or is it body fat? 9 times out of 10 it's body fat. And, yes, losing weight is kind of the same, but remember, losing weight it can be muscle, water, and it's very, losing weight and gaining weight is not the same as losing fat and gaining fat. And I'll sort of go into that in more detail a bit later. But essentially, what I'm going to go through is how to lose body fat, because I'm guessing your goal, or if you want to lose weight, then you want to be losing body fat. I don't see any reason why you'd want to lose muscle unless you are just naturally very muscular and you want to lose muscle tissue because you don't like that. You don't like the look of being muscular. So that's absolutely fine, and that can be done as well. But most people need to be preserving muscle tissue or gaining muscle tissue, because muscle tissue is very valuable, it's very useful, it's metabolically active, so your body burns more calories just by resting if you have more muscle. I'm going off on a tangent here, but it will protect your skeleton, it will make you stronger, improve your posture. So we want to keep muscle, we want to keep hold of muscle, and if we can, we want to build muscle tissue. But today I'm going to go into losing fat. Okay, I'll go into how to gain muscle next week. So how do we lose body fat? So the most important thing when it comes to losing body fat is creating a calorie deficit. You've probably heard this so many times, but the reason you hear it all the time is because it's so important. So creating a calorie or energy deficit. And an energy deficit or calorie deficit is basically it's when you burn more calories than you consume. Okay, so you're in a negative energy balance. So negative energy balance, calorie deficit or energy deficit are all the same things, aka burning more calories than you consume, or consuming less calories than you burn. Right? Essentially, we need to create a consistent calorie deficit in order to lose or break down and use body mass for fuel. Let's just say that we created a calorie deficit through consuming less calories, right? What would happen, and all you did was create a calorie deficit without anything else, without activity, without any gym work. We worked out our maintenance calories, which I'll go through in a bit, but we worked out our maintenance calories and we created a calorie deficit through nutritional manipulation, right? We just consumed less calories and we created a negative energy balance. What would happen would be your body's tissue, so body fat and muscle, would start to break down and be utilized as energy, because you remember you are in an energy deficit. So your body is trying to get energy from elsewhere. So what would happen is your body would break down fat, and it would oxidize it into fatty acids. Okay, and it would break down muscle tissue to be used as energy. Your body will actually prefer muscle tissue because it's more metabolically active. It's got more energy within a smaller amount of tissue. Okay, so your body will actually prefer to use muscle tissue as energy than body fat. So, and this is why only creating calorie deficit is not the most optimal thing for fat loss. Okay, yes, we want to be creating a calorie deficit, but we also want to be preserving the valuable muscle tissue. And all we do for that is we tell our bodies that we are using the muscle tissue. So we start weight training, right? We start lifting weights, moving weights in the gym. We're telling our body that no, you can't take that. We need it for this stress that we're going to put our muscles through, aka lifting weights in the gym. So this is why strength training is so important when it comes to fat loss, because we are literally, all we're doing is trying to keep hold of that muscle tissue while we're in a calorie deficit. So your body has no other choice but to break down and use the stored energy, which is body fat, as energy, right? So using muscle tissue in the gym, strength training in the gym 2 to 4 times a week, lifting fairly heavy weights, and consuming a fairly high amount of protein per day are your 2 best options for optimal fat loss. Okay, so in order of importance, it's creating a calorie deficit, creating a sustainable, consistent calorie deficit. That's very, very important. Preserving muscle tissue by lifting weights in the gym and having a high protein diet. Okay, those 3 things is what's going to get you effective fat loss. So I mentioned the consistency or sustainability of creating a calorie deficit. Now that's very important as well, because if your calorie deficit isn't sustainable, for example, the deficit is too large, so it's just, if it's too big, you're gonna speed up the fat loss, but it's just not sustainable because you're going to be so hungry and you're going to potentially binge within the next few days or in the evening, right? When you're absolutely starving, all you want is food, and you're going to go into this sort of binge mode where you just want to eat everything and anything. And then what's going to happen is you're going to consume a shitload of calories and then end up going into a calorie surplus again. And then what happens is you go into a surplus, you feel like shit, you feel guilty because you've just, inverted commas, ruined your diet. So then you go back into a deficit again, a big deficit. The cycle starts over again. You go into a deficit, you can't handle that deficit because it's too large. You get really hungry, and then by the time it gets to Friday, you think, fuck it, I'm going to go out and I'm going to drink and eat shitloads. And then you go into a surplus again. This is why people always struggle with this sort of yo-yo dieting, right? So you diet hard Monday to Friday, and then by the time it gets to Friday, you're like, you're fed up, you're tired, you're hungry, so you think, fuck it, I'm going to go out the weekend and drink and eat loads. And then by Sunday, you feel like shit, you feel hungover, you feel like a failure because you've ruined your diet, so you start again on Monday. Do you understand how this sort of works? So this is why creating a sustainable, moderate calorie deficit is potentially your best option. And this depends on the person, obviously, like it all does, but most people can sustain a fairly low to moderate calorie deficit. Some people might be able to handle and sustain a big calorie deficit, in which case they're going to see faster fat loss results because they're in a bigger energy deficit. So it uses more stored energy, but your body fat, as energy to make up for the energy you are not consuming through calories. I hope you're keeping up. The most important thing is creating a deficit which is sustainable for you as an individual and your lifestyle. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with having a very, very small calorie deficit. Yes, the results will be longer, but it's more sustainable. And sustainability is probably the most important thing when it comes to successful fat loss, long-term fat loss goals, right? Now, it depends on what you're doing. It depends on if you're doing like an 8-week fat loss program, like my 8-week Selena. In that case, the deficit is quite big because people want quick results in 8 weeks. And if I give someone a very small deficit in it for 8 weeks, they're not going to see very quick results. They're going to get demotivated and they're going to quit. Right? So it all depends. It depends on the person. It depends on what you want your outcome to be. It depends on your time frame. It depends on so many factors. But I'm just giving you a general outline. How do we know when we're in a calorie deficit? So what we need to do is work out our maintenance calories. Okay, we all have different maintenance calories. Your maintenance calories is your total daily energy expenditure. Okay, and this is the amount of calories you are burning on average just by I don't know, living and just by your day-to-day sort of activities, your total daily energy expenditure, the amount of calories you burn in a day, right? And maintenance calories would be that number. So in order to maintain your body weight, you just need to consume roughly that amount of calories. So let's say for argument's sake, your total daily energy expenditure, your TDEE, is around 2,000 calories. Okay, if you wanted to maintain your body weight, you would just need to consume roughly 2,000 calories per day. Okay, roughly. These are all very, very estimated amounts, and no one knows really. No one knows the exact calorie amount. Even food labels are inaccurate. No one knows the exact amount. That's why we work in estimates. So let's say your total daily energy expenditure is around 2,000. And we work that out there's several ways we can work that out. First of all, I'm going to go into what your total daily energy and expenditure is made up of. Okay, so first of all, it is your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, which is around 70% of your total daily energy expenditure. So it makes up a lot of calories. And that's just the energy you burn while laying down, okay, while you're resting, just by staying alive, right? And then you have your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and that's energy burnt when you are fidgeting, when you're moving around, when you're clicking your fingers, when you're literally moving, you're turning your head, you're brushing your teeth, whatever. That's your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I mean, even walking can be sort of put into that category, and that makes up around, I don't know, 20%. I could be talking absolute shit here, but it doesn't matter too much. But your main bulk of calories is burnt through just by laying down, just by staying alive, just for your organs to be doing what it should be doing. Okay. The next up is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Then we have your thermic effect of feeding, or thermic effect of food, and that's the energy burned through food. So this is why protein is so important, because protein has the highest thermic effect. So it burns the most calories out of carbs and fats just by it being digested in your body. So even alcohol has a fairly high thermic effect, but that's still no excuse to drink loads of alcohol. So this is why protein is so important. It keeps you full and it has a higher thermic effect. All right, and then last we have EAT, so exercise activity thermogenesis, and this is the calories which are burnt through exercise. So through lifting weights, through going for your jog, cardio, general exercise, right? And that makes up not a very much amount of your TDEE at all. That's probably the least amount of overall calories burnt. Okay, so your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, which is your maintenance calories, is made up from your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, thermic effect of food, and exercise activity thermogenesis. Okay, so how do we work that out? Well, if we haven't got a special lab where you get connected up to the best computers in the world, there's no way of knowing exactly. Well, there is, but the top athletes and the scientists have all this information and all this tech. We don't. All we can have is estimates. Now, what we can do is simply go onto a website called TDEE Calculator, or you can ask me very kindly for my own calorie calculator spreadsheet, which basically gives you I say accurate, it's a pretty good idea of what your maintenance calories is, and it will also give you the amount of calories you need to follow if you want to lose body fat or if you want to gain weight. If you want a copy of this, just let me know. Send me a message on Instagram and I will send a copy over to you via email. It's very, very useful. If not, then go onto the internet and just type in maintenance calorie calculator or TDEE calorie calculator or something like that, and loads will come up. All right, there's also formulas you can use, but they're very long-winded and they're not 100% accurate anyway, so it's best just to go onto the website. So you can find out roughly your maintenance calories. So let's say you are me, right? You're 36, you are 5'10", and you weigh 80 kilos, and you have a fairly high activity level. I know roughly that my maintenance calories is around 2,500 because I've done this so many times. So it's around 2,500. So if I wanted to lose body fat, all I would need to do is consume less than 2,500 calories, or burn more than 2,500 calories. Make sense? So my maintenance is rough. It's the rough amount of calories I burn. So even if I wanted to consume around 2,500 calories, if I didn't want to eat any less, and I still wanted to create a calorie deficit, then all I would need to do is just increase my energy output, and that would put me into a negative energy balance. But most people haven't got the time, or they don't want to do any more activity really, because they may be fairly active anyway. So what they would need to do is consume less than their maintenance calories, and you could do that by obviously loads of different ways: reducing your portion sizes, reducing meal frequency, reducing the amount of ultra processed foods and alcohol. You can track your food on MyFitnessPal or MacroFactor or NutriCheck. There's loads of calorie or food tracking apps out there, but you simply track your food and make sure you are not always going over 2,500 calories. So if you're consuming, let's say, 2,400 calories, for argument's sake, you'd be in a calorie deficit, but it's a very, very small calorie deficit, so your fat loss results would be very slow, which may not be very motivating for you, but it will be a lot more sustainable. So with my clients, I tend to give a range, right? It depends on, again, what they want to achieve and their time frame, but I would take off around 300 to 500 calories off their maintenance, okay? So I'd give them a daily target of their calorie deficit calories, their deficit calories, and say, right, aim for around that number. So track your food in whatever app you choose, and make sure you don't go over that number too consistently. If you go over that number once or twice in the week, then that's fine. You're still on average in a calorie deficit. Okay? So essentially that is how you lose body fat. That's how you create a calorie deficit. There's so many different ways of creating an energy deficit. So like I said, you can consume less calories and or move more. Some people like to do both. Some people like to take off a couple of hundred calories from the maintenance and do more cardio in the week. So it'll create quite a big deficit. Okay? I wouldn't recommend creating a big deficit and increasing your energy output too high, because you're going to be exhausted. The overall calorie deficit is going to be huge. Your recovery is going to take a hit. Your immune system will take a hit, it's not a fun place to be. So this is why sustainable long-term fat loss is probably the most the easiest route to take. Even though aggressive dieting is absolutely fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. Depending on the person, there's nothing wrong with that in general. This is why it's all down to the individual, right? So this is how you lose body fat. Like I said, you create a calorie deficit what works best for you, right? And you stick to that calorie deficit on average throughout the week. And then, you essentially self-monitor. So you weigh yourself every day and take an average at the end of the week to see what your body weight is doing. That's one way of self-monitoring. Another way is taking pictures of yourself every 2, 3, 4 weeks. You can take measurements of your waist, your hips, your thighs, your chest to see what else is happening. You go by how clothes are fitting. If the clothes are fitting better, and you feel more comfortable, and you look you look better, but the scales aren't moving, then it doesn't matter. You're still going to be improving body composition. You're still going to be getting leaner. You're still going to be losing body fat. Okay, so this is why weighing yourself isn't always the most important thing. yes, it is one tool we can use to see what's happening to your body, but weight fluctuations are a thing, and they will happen automatically, and they'll happen without you even trying to stop them from happening. Even if you're in a perfect, consistent daily calorie deficit, the weight on the scales will go up and down. It's just what happens. It's just how. Yeah, it's completely normal. It's completely natural. Down to stress. It's down to tiredness. Down to the food you've eaten. It's down to the amount of carbs you've eaten. It's down to the amount of salt, water, all sorts. Taking pictures, measuring yourself, just by how you look, how your clothes are fitting, are all great ways of self-monitoring and making sure you are gaining progress in some way. Okay, so that's sort of it, right? So I don't want to go into it in too much more detail, but remember, you are always burning body fat. No matter what you're doing, you're sleeping, you're walking, you are always burning body fat. Your body is always burning and storing body fat. Fat loss and fat gain and fat maintenance it's all down to overall. It's down to energy balance, right? It's down to calories in versus calories out. That's the most important thing. So if anyone says that calories in versus calories out doesn't matter, they are lying. If you want to lose body fat, we need to consistently burn more calories than we consume. The amount of body fat you burn, it depends on the exercise intensity. But again, I don't want to go into this in too much detail because it's confusing as fuck. So just remember that you're always burning body fat, some days more than others, and at some time during the day more than other times during the day, depending on what you're doing. But you're always burning body fat. But it doesn't mean you're always losing body fat. That comes down to overall energy balance, calories in versus calories out. So the key points to take away is to lose body fat, we work out our estimated maintenance calories by going onto a website or asking me for my spreadsheet. We take off 2, 3, 4, 500 calories from that number, from your maintenance calories, right? And then you follow that number. That is your rough daily energy intake target. So you can use tracking apps such as MyFitnessPal, NutriCheck, MacroFactor, Carbon Coach. There are loads out there, and you can use an app to track your food and your energy intake. Tracking is also very good for food awareness, just so you know roughly how much energy is in certain foods. So I would recommend it for a good sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks to start off with. Okay, so you track your energy intake, make sure you don't go over your maintenance calories, and you maybe increase your energy output, like doing some cardio, some low intense cardio to increase your energy output, so it increases the size of the deficit for quicker fat loss results if you want. Okay, so remember, to make sure you are losing only body fat, we need to use your muscle tissues. We need to use your muscle tissue and have a high protein diet. So you need to have around 1.5 to 2 grams per kilo of body weight per day of protein, right? So I'm 80 kilos, I'll probably have around 140, 160 grams of protein per day to ensure that I'm getting enough, so my body doesn't break down muscle tissue and for it to be used as energy. So we have a high protein diet, and we use our muscles in the gym. So we lift weights, we push, pull heavy weights to make sure that those muscles don't go anywhere. Okay, so if you are in a consistent calorie deficit and you are using your muscles in the gym on a consistent basis 2 to 4 times a week, then you will lose body fat, and body fat only. Okay, so you also need patience and stuff as well, because it takes a long time, right? So that is basically it. I really hope that makes sense. If you have any questions on this, just message me and I'll try and sort of help you out. But yeah, or you can just listen to it again. Up to you, really. And again, if you've got any questions for my Q&A episode, which could be next week actually, I might do one next week, so I've got a few questions coming in already. If you have any more questions, I will get it answered next week. So ask me a question, send an email to me, email me on rich@fisher-fitness.co.uk, or you can send me a message on Instagram and I will answer your question in the next episode. But yeah, hope this helped, hope this made sense, and on the not next week, but the week after, I'll probably go into how to gain muscle tissue, which is a lot simpler than you think. So if you want to know how to gain muscle, then make sure you tune in or make sure you listen in a couple of weeks. And please make sure you share this on your social media, you leave a review, you subscribe, that would help me out as well. And yeah, just sort of tell your friends and family about it. That's it from me. Speak soon, guys. Take care.